ordering things.
Maybe that was just Ollie leaving.
Mm-hmm.
He left the production via a very squeaky door. Hey, NIP vs Team Liquid. This, I really hope, is a banger of a match. And you expect it to be a banger of a match. There's always things to take into consideration. Sorry, you were going to say?
No, you go. What do you want to take
into
consideration?
I was going to say, there's always things to take into consideration. Most importantly, the fact that it is two teams that went head-to-head very recently. That's a score in the pros thing for this to be a banger because they'll want to resettle things. But also, it's two teams that are expected to be able to do very well at Mexico. So we might see some stuff hidden away. I think that's a reason that we've come to Club in Oregon and to Coast of the Decider. Very 50-50 maps. I think because of how close we are to Mexico.
Yeah, I think this will be a very good series. I'm expecting to go all the way. I'm expecting to see 3 maps. I do predict that both teams are going to win their maps. I think Liquid are going to win Oregon. I think NIP will win Clubhouse, and we'll see where Coastline goes. As it stands, like Ollie said, Oregon, it is a very, very good map for Liquid. Yeah, we know that. We've seen that yesterday whenever they played against Phoenix. I mean, if we go to the history of both of these sides, which there is a lot of history, NIP has never beaten Liquid in Oregon. Never beaten them. And then if you look at Clubhouse, NIP has more wins against Liquid and Clubhouse. And then if we get to Coastline, it's actually 3 wins to 0 for Liquid. So, as the map video stands, it actually favors Liquid in many elements.
I think that's it. I think what NIP have right now, as I said, they came into this on a bit of a smoother journey. The last time, when were NIP having a smoother journey and Liquid had a slightly rockier journey? Oh, it was SI. And it got to the final, and it was these two teams. And we saw NIP able to lock it out. And sure, there's a slight difference to that sort of moment. This isn't the grand final. That's one thing. And also, Liquid haven't just come off the back of playing another series. They're going into this fresh. There's all these decisions that are sort of coming in together to paint a picture, but it's a picture that will only actually get truly painted, and we'll know the method that they're using when it comes to play, and it's going to start here on Oregon with a pretty standard setup lineup. There is Psycho on that Ella again, though.
I mean, whenever I'm going into this game, look, there's always something in the back of my head that thinks, this could be a 7-0, this could be a 7-0, this could be a 7-0. Because it's just one of those games where I feel like these big teams, if they have, momentum, they just steamroll each other.
But big teams get the responses. Big teams know how to handle things going away from them. Big teams with experience on the grandest stage don't get so easily shaken, don't get so easily stuck in their own heads, because both these teams have won on the grandest stages, and both these teams have lost on the grandest stages. You have the full range and ratio of emotions among these two rosters. They know how to handle going 3 down, 3-0 down, 4-0 down, 5-0 down. They're less likely to lose the wheels on the side of the truck, and more likely to look for ways to refuel themselves.
So, Liquid, what are you opting for? Looks to be quite similar to what they normally go for, which is open up every hatch, do a little bit of reconnaissance, find out where the weak points are for NIP, and then go from there. Looks as if they might be rotating towards blue, seeing double rotate from Sexy Cake and PSK, and because PSK, of course, is a hard breacher, we would expect to see a lot of pressure towards that blue side. And I think the mirror windows also just kind of deter anyone who wants to try and push in towards that laundry.
But as they're trying to pop the pressure here onto the side of blue, they're looking for a bit of a lead in. They're looking for a bit of damage that they might be able to do structurally towards the shield that's otherwise stuck in on the far side. The sprays sort of swing round as another canister pops just round on the shoulder. It's Kamikaze that gets the opener there, and Sexy Cake is the first off the board. The Twitch is gone, and puts them in a bit of a trickier situation, but now that is every canister popped as well. So Kamikaze is going to replace the smoke canister with the smoke himself, ready in waiting with the shotgun. The pull on the pin of the grenade gives a bit of the bait away, but Kamikaze is the one that wins out. Nesk is the next to fall.
Muzi, gets swung. PSK sends him home, and see if Liquid can try and capitalize, but no, Pino with the shotgun. The double shotgun's really working for Liquid, and another free shotguns rain in Hellfire. upon Liquid, and PSK is going to be up against the Ella shotgun. But we'll actually find one kill and another. All of a sudden, it's a quad, and oh, he almost had it. But there's the little shotgun that comes in. Have we just seen just a shotgun fest? Like, was that 4 kills with shotguns? 5 kills with shotguns? I have no idea.
It was a lot of shotguns. There was a lot of shotguns, and it turns out, Demo, there was just enough shotguns.
Oh, what a way to kick it off already.
Yeah, we almost opened up with an ace clutch there from what seemed like a pretty dire situation because the failures were a bit all over the board. To be fair, an ace clutch, I guess, by definition, is always from a dire situation. You don't usually have ace clutch follow success, but the lockout came through there. It's something that they can sort of keep as the energy. It's the first round, and it went almost all the way to everybody dying. Okay, that's another... Remember the little pros and cons about how this could be a banger? Mm-hmm. There's one. There's another one on the pros board.
Okay. So, moving in now towards this top floor. Liquid haven't changed up much. We're seeing, I think, a switch off of the Twitch, and now we're seeing the IQ be brought out by Sexy Kate. Maybe, of course, that's in response to Valkyrie, as we're seeing Pino will be bringing that operator, and we've talked in depth about how strong Valkyrie can be on a map like Oregon, where there are outside areas, and you can definitely play aggro, utilizing the information. I think, typically, yeah, that camera that's going to be spot out by Moringa is one of the more common. It gives you complete lines of sight onto the south side of the building, but because it is, you know, pretty common, it's very easy for the attackers to get rid of it very, very swiftly, which Moringa, you know, it is there. Is he gonna... It's still on the antenna. Can I not...
It's gone now. It's gone.
Oh, there it is.
Someone else got it.
I was worried that, you know...
You assume Sexy Cake... Yeah. Got it. PSK is also there. Any of them could have got it. As you said, it was always going to get got. I think they were trying to look for a potential swing. Because it's so default, you might even expect people to be really bold behind it. And that's what they probably had a bit of concern about here. Palu's putting the pressure on the double window. There's a bit of movement that's coming in underneath them. And you can see that they're actually trying to find... Yes, some of the answers and some of the focus towards it. The verticality is currently entirely in the control of NIP, and it doesn't seem like, so far, Liquid's going to try and directly pressure that. They're going to do some work on the windows first of all, see if they can get in onto the bedroom, try and potentially get all the way onto walk-in.
Billy being used to try and clear out that shield in towards Trophy. I think NIP are happy enough to hold it for the meantime until a little bit more pressure gets applied, and you see, they've even opened up that wall fluke. That just gives them another aggressive line of sight, and it's something that Liquid have to check. Moringa, he has to sit and hold that. So that's like a gun that would naturally be used to try and push in towards Trophy. It has to sit and hold an angle, and perhaps that angle, it could never get swung.
That's it. It puts them in a bit of a tricky situation here. The longer they're sort of trying to formulate their way through, and the longer that they're trying to, I guess, come to a conclusion is... Time for NIP to restructure and maybe look for alternatives that they can sort of stack up here. There's the pop around, a very bold play. Musi suffers quite a lot as they have to pull their way further and further back. It's good shepherding away. As I said, that verticality isn't truly being tested right now. It's held, but not being directly tested. Moringa is just going to leave the Claymore on the bottom of the stairs to buy themselves some time. 50 seconds now, and the pressure has to start coming through. The spray across gets the drop. Palu through the smoke finds the first, takes the drop to look, but look at how deep the players of NIP are.
Yeah, NIP, like we've mentioned, they're happy enough just to let everyone fall back and try and play off the man advantage. It's a 4v4, so they don't necessarily have the advantage, but in terms of time, they certainly have the advantage. On that front, Psycho finds another. There's the advantage that they have. That's where NIP can just play it slow, and all the pressure is going to be on Liquid. 15 seconds, Liquid have to make a move, but this wall being open from Pino, he can try and hold them at bay. Takes a lot of damage, but quickly moves to the prone position. Psycho coming out light stairs to try and support his team. Pino still battling back. Liquid are trying to go fast, but not fast enough. Nesk will find one, but Pino finishes it off with a C4. NIP hold firm, and round 2 goes their way.
Try to just shepherd and corral themselves little bits of space. but unfortunately they could not quite get to the solidity they wanted. There was still those holds, that play in place, and sure, they'd done enough to force NIP into slightly more uncomfortable situations, but with the limitations of the time that they had left, they didn't really leave themselves more room for the adaptation in case the firefights went wrong, which in this game, in this setup, in this region, is always a big possibility. Meeting in kitchen, we head on to next. The IQ swapped out, potentially. The Valkyrie swapped out, definitely to a Vigil to bait a little bit more of that roam play, and the Jackal is the pickup. The response.
Okay. Moving into our third bomb site, and it will be meeting and kitchen. Usually the fourth pick bomb site. Third pick is typically the dining room and the kitchen, but now we're going to go for meeting. Both have their pros and their cons, but one thing that is always going to stay common is that the defenders always have to try and hold kids. That's because, I mean, the similarities is each site has a kitchen, and kitchen is, of course, located below the kids, so you have to try and hold that. One thing that I do like about this bomb site is I think Attic is an untapped potential that you can really have a fun time on if you're defense. I've seen some teams leave it soft, like the double Attic wall soft, and then it gives you a potential rotate in towards Big Tower. Obviously, the hatch can shut down anyone who wants to try and push in from Big Tower. NIP will be reinforcing the hatch on this occasion, so I think maybe they're expecting Liquid to go for a very heavy upstairs take and not necessarily just take from Big Tower. They'll try and spread themselves out a little bit and use that verticality to the best of their ability.
Now, as we start to see a little bit more of this potential game get cooked, it's seeing what is served up next. The control on that space, on that roam, is going to be our next step. It's seeing if they can, I guess, try and get a handle for NIP and move in from that moment. It's not really the game that NIP's been handing over, though. The early engagement isn't really sort of the biggest stress for them. They've always been able to keep it at a little bit at arm's length. They're happy to put the pressure on, as you can see quite clearly here, but to be honest, the eyes are, I guess, on the spread. They've obviously got the body here on the back of the stairs. They can go for a bit of a rotate or a quick movement if they really want to try and be bold. They're expecting pressure from underneath and on top of them as well. The canisters to move around. There's the reveal of a head. There's still the concern of anyone that might pop up around. They lose it. Nesk gets the spray on the double as well. Takes the body on the center stage. Julio steps up to try and replace the mantle, but what an early opener here.
Yes, a very, very strong start for Liquid too. Opening picks, Kamikaze Muzi, there goes Psycho. Liquid have woken up this round and they are in prime position to take this. It looks as if NIP even going more aggressive, knowing that they have to try and pull back some kills. Pino on that alibi, and you can see even Julio ready to see if he can pop up and find some kills himself. But Liquid, as patient as they want to be, they can easily get some drones in and find out the remaining positions of the last two NIP players.
Holding desperately on the angle. Takes the first. That's a grenade, I think, in hand, potentially, that's going to get the drop on Nesk. It looked like they were holding one, but maybe they weren't. Maybe it was just the way that they are angled. Either way, lucky that they weren't, because that would be the drop-off and the lockdown, and it's Parley that has the lockdown for now. Gets the take, sprays it through. Pino has one more of his own. Tries to find the next, but cannot quite connect it. Team Liquid take the tertiary.
Liquid winning it really, I think, in the opening minute, more or less. I think if you give Liquid, as we know, that solid ground of having those opening picks, Liquid, very, very rare we would see them choke leads inside a round. So NIP, just don't give Liquid that opportunity. Don't give them that possibility. And it is strange because, like I've just said, Fluke, it's, Liquid are a team that are very decisive. If you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. We don't see them lose, rounds. But then again, NIP are a team of clutchers. How many times have we seen people like Kamikaze show up? Julio, for me, is a big one. It's very, very dynamic. Both teams have different playstyles, and they rely, very heavily on different elements of Siege. And I always think that makes this game so much more enjoyable to watch.
Oh, yeah, entirely. It's having, I guess, demonstrations of the different fundamental dynamics. We talked about this as a conversation yesterday, and like the fundamentals of the game, and being able to master and control different variants of them and show that and demonstrate those aspects in such a sort of plethora of skills. It's always going to be exciting and enticing to watch. I'm curious how much of a setup we get here again. We've got a lot of shotguns, yet again. I think Pino has doubled down. Yep, that's... I'm assuming Psycho's got the shotgun too. But pretty cared. Pretty cared for close engagement.
Yeah, certainly. Shotguns were massive for NIP on the basement the last time, and I mean, Liquid almost having a big clutch from PSK, but just wasn't quite. I wonder what Liquid are going to do this time around. That mirror is still being propped by Julio. The mirror windows are going to be great at denying the kind of freezer laundry takes if Liquid want to go for that. You fire mirror window on freezer, fire one on laundry. Both of them complement each other extremely well. You know, the freezer mirror window, it gets covered by the laundry one, so it's a tough old cookie to crack. So typically you'll find Liquid will want to go for that blue take, but then if you go to blue, it's shotgun central.
Steady approach here on the intel. They're trying to find something, and it was, I guess, that lead-in before where they did a lot of the body work across the rest of the map previously. They were able to steadily try and clear their way through. Here, it seems like they're going to play a little bit more of attention towards tower and the tower stairs first. Instead, they have the hold on the far side. They are concerned for a rotation, but they don't need NIP to be in that situation. There is the destruction of that barbed wire. There is the shots that say, hey man, that was my barbed wire.
So, right now, Liquid, just gearing up that information again. Liquid are a very slow team in the beginning whenever they have their control of whatever floor they want to go for. Then they'll take their time to open up hatches, start targeting specific positions. Right now, if I'm Liquid, I'm thinking, okay, we have shields and blue. We need to get rid of those. We need to start rotating nades around, rotate Moringa around on the Sophia if you need to. Just do anything you can to upset NIP and their holds they're going for. Because NIP, like we said, if they start getting pressured, they're happy enough to fall back, and then Liquid kind of prey on the control that they can have over bomb sites.
Well, they suffered from the top of E-Box. Muzi, I don't think, realized just how under pressure he was here. He cannot give up the hold that they've got, especially with the minute on. He's gonna play it out, and there it is. Wanted to bait the utility, falls back to the secondary shield. Has the ADSs to offer himself some support. The amount of time that they've been able to waste by having that aggressive hold there. Kamikaze is buying Muzi some time. That's the use of those smoke canisters, so they can rotate out of pillar. They know E-Box was under the control of Liquid at that point. They know that they cannot be separated and isolated because now that they have that control of barrels, they have that long stretch, they can dig their way all across that connector. Muzi can only really cover the rotations, cannot offer support if the firefight comes through. The drone gets a bit of the reveal. The C4 does a little bit more. Sexy Cake is off the board on the entrance there onto E-Box, trying to go for the default plant spot. Moringa and Pino find one apiece. Another C4 pops off, two bodies. Muzi, you have everybody to work with, but unfortunately they have nobody to support them now, though suddenly they don't massively need it. PSK, he was in the clutch or kick situation before. He's in it yet again. This time he can't quite get as close as he did before.
Yeah, NIP really preying on the time. You can see the time starts to tick down, and Liquid, a little bit of panic, I think, just setting in on their mind, and then they start rambling about, and NIP happy enough to pick up the kills where they fall. So NIP get another round back, 3-1 they lead. And they go back up to Kids, which is, of course, another bomb site that they have won in the past. So Liquid not looking too hot at the moment. Of course, it's still pretty early at the moment. We have a whole half to go, and Liquid then they get to go in the defense, and you know that's where people like Nesk I think really come alive. And that's one person that we always have to highlight. You know, we seen the guy yesterday. The guy was insane, and we'll see if we can see that same Nesk turn up today.
I think that was one of the things that we talked about yesterday as well, is early day Nesk during this tournament wasn't quite there to the level that he has been recently. Yesterday he was. He was a big force. He was a big showing, which is something that, you know, you want your star sort of players, you want your star sort of rosters to show up. He ended the game and the series with a 4-game clutch on Oregon. It was fantastic to sort of watch, and you have no game bigger than your biggest showdown. You have no opponent bigger, arguably, in the whole world than NIP at this moment. But if anyone's going to be able to take them to task, it's a Liquid where you have all of their players showing up, and so far, it's okay signs, but always have a little bit more painted on the board.
So Liquid, what are you going to do differently this time? We're seeing Sexy Cake on another switch up of an operator. Flores coming in for him. think Flores will be a very, very good operator for him. Try and clear out the kind of trophy pressure that NIP have. It's kind of like this triangle that we've seen before. We have one guy in Armory, one guy in Bedroom, and one guy in Trophy. And each really complement one another. So it's very, very tough to really crack down as an attacking side, because if you kill one, the likelihood of getting refragged is very, very high. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough one for Liquid to crack. I wonder maybe if that'll push them away somewhere else. Maybe an Attic take is where they want to go. And Attic is actually an area that I see falling out of favor massively across every region. Nobody really can be bothered with taking Big Tower and into Attic anymore.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, Attic, because it used to be quite core to a lot of things, and as you said, it's sort of dropped off. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. What we've seen, I think, and that sort of forced this hand is a lot more teams are extending into Trophy and across the Bedroom. A lot more teams are putting up Aruni gates and locking off those angles. Moringa locks off the first there. Parley's hoping someone else drifts on Army stairs, but nobody is gifting their lives as of yet, and it puts you in a bit of a tricky situation. But things like this used to not happen. You used to have that entirely locked off. A bandit would try and trick it potentially, or you might play with the Kaid, and it would be the battle of making sure that they sort of didn't get this fully open. And since then, it's kind of, as you said, fallen out of favor.
Kazi has to be careful, of course, that wall being opened up. It would be a great thing for NIP, but equally, you know, you've opened up the site wall, so there's two ways to look at it. There's the Flores drones being sent in. Of course, Flores is going to be great at trying to push out Kamikaze and really disrupt them. The one thing about Flores is that you can move Enders out of positions and into crossfires, and Paulu finds one in the Psycho, and NIP definitely backs against the wall at this stage, but this is where NIP just become alive whenever they're up against it, whenever it's around that they should lose. They end up winning them. There goes the Flores drone, and that is timed perfectly with the swing from PSK. Muzi, he's going to be up next, and a great swing eliminates PSK, but then quickly shut down by Nask and Pino all by himself inside of Attic. That wall being opened up. We've seen him play here last time, and Liquid will be aware. In goes another Flores drone, and Moringa shuts him down. Liquid, very clean on the clear out of these players in sight.
Yeah, as you sort of said about it before and alluded to, Attic isn't the biggest be-all and end-all for a lot of teams. The fact that the final body was there and they were just still trying to hold on to the rest of the hold, everything else had otherwise been shut down. They had the control of the space. The Flores was used masterfully. It did everything that you want it to do. It drove them into awkward positions. It drove them away from firefights when you otherwise wanted to be able to pull yourself a little bit closer and a little bit more into the fight itself. It was that sort of bout of momentum that led them very well. And, you know, for an operator that some players and some teams have said is so exceptionally powerful, is one of the top operators for them at the minute, it's great to see the sort of exploration of his uses there in what is quite a sturdy hold.
So upstairs again for NIP, having a second opportunity at defending it. This will be their last defense off the half. And if they get 4-2, it's going to be great shape for NIP, but if Liquid, hey, if they pull back a 3-3, that's a bit of momentum, which I think is obviously scary for NIP, is giving Liquid something to go off. So NIP really need this round to give themselves a great chance at winning this map. Obviously, we've kind of analyzed and said that, yeah, Oregon, Liquid's map all day long. NIP never beating Liquid on this map, so it's definitely a big possibility to see Clubhouse be a map we go into, and NIP are actually on the losing side. So, yeah, NIP, if they win Oregon, looking really good for a 2-0.
I think that's the thing is, you know, it's the pace that we expected to be set. Liquid, sometimes they're not the quickest starter into a game. They take a little bit of time to warm up. They take a little bit of time to find their groove. I think it's something where you're more likely to see it pressed by NIP, who are a steady team. But here, I think being able to get themselves in and get a couple of their attacks, if they can get themselves set for the 3-3 here, it can keep their pace on and keep them getting closer and closer to the pressure. It's still trying to find the uses. Sexcake is obviously back on the Flores from the use that they had on it before. They haven't quite been able to get in. I think yesterday they had like a 12-2 game or a 12-3 game. So they've sort of found themselves better back, but anyone would against NIP.
Ask already in the building, looking for a different avenue, a different approach, perhaps, that we haven't seen from Liquid so far in this game. Obviously, yesterday, whenever they were against Phoenix, we seen Liquid really pressure that White Stairs. Nesk was a big fan of using that exploitation. You know, White Stairs cuts off a lot of rotations. They can really catch those defenders by surprise there. The Flores drones being sent in, and yeah, like I said, highlights the power of this operator, the information you can gain. You can clear out areas like Trophy very, very easily. And of course, last round, they demonstrated how strong Flores can be with just moving one defender into the crossfire of another attacker.
Well, now with the drones behind them, again, we're seeing very, as you said, masterful use at seeing if they can capitalize behind it. They haven't quite been able to pinch the body as they were able to before, and now as the wall starts to fall open, this is, again, something a little bit more traditional, that sort of hold, that sort of double reinforcement, but there's an awareness of the rotation, the capabilities. Nesk is holding off. They know somebody is loose, but they're not 100% sure where. There's the pings, and they've been able to slip underneath, but that body on showers could prove to be a problem. And someone's descending White Stairs as well. That would have been cool. That would have been baited. There is a catch, though. Musi gets got by that drone, and that is a big loss.
Yeah, great stuff from Nesk, being able to eliminate the man creeping below, and Nesk almost finds a nade kill. There's a little bit of shrapnel to Kamikaze, but Kamikaze shrugs that off and continues on his way of smoking out the bomb site, trying to hold Liquid at bay. And 20 seconds to go, Liquid, they better get a move on, and shotguns are primed and ready for the trophy door. There needs to be some good crossfires and good refrags being applied, and there's one kill that rounds out PSK, eliminates Kamikaze, shotgun down, smoke gone. NIP are almost trapped inside of kids right now. Julio and Psycho really struggling to get out of here. And look who walks in, Psycho! Almost baits his teammate there. Liquid, clean up house. That was a bit of an awkward moment for Psycho.
He ran out of bullets. I think they went for the reposition, didn't know that the body was on double window, sprayed against them, but caught somebody on the top of White, and suddenly they're all isolated, and they've all flooded the site. Liquid set themselves up with 3-3. They've been able to drive themselves back in with some positivity after not quite having it at the start of that. And NIP have lost that little bit of momentum. I think how late that execute came, but how successful, shows that Liquid have that pace and that coordination in a bit of the chaos. They're able to drive themselves in those tricky situations. And from then, you build success. And from success, you build yourself closer and closer to that final later today.
Okay. So, even split. Does this favor? I mean, if it's even, does it really favor anyone? I'm still leaning towards Liquid for Org, and I think now in their defensive half, we'll see them really come alive.
PSK got opened a little bit by Sexy Cake. Just on the rotation.
Half HP. Still alive. Could have just killed him. Could have been a lot worse.
Could have been. But, you know, I like how it happened just after I was complimenting their coordination and communication as a team in chaotic situations. Shotguns.
Hey, and speaking of Sexy Cake, I mean, he had a stormer of a game yesterday. Not so much at the moment.
No, but I think he's playing a different role currently. Obviously, we saw him droning the Flores very, very well and driving that sort of game. He wasn't always. He opened up on a different operator, and I think he quickly realized, I'm not connecting with this game the same way I did yesterday.
Operator roulette he was having, and it just wasn't really working for him.
Yeah. So I think, but it's a very different team. It's a very different sort of kettle of fish here when you're up against reigning world champions NIP. This is a prep.
This is going to be quick, is it? What are they hunting for? I wonder, because, I mean, there's nobody really lurking that they can kill. The closest person that we can see is PSK on the bottom of the stairs, and if that's where they're going to go, then sure, but they really went upstairs, so I suppose NIP, they've got that control of Big Tower, and Liquid, oh, what's this? Follow and Nest both dropping off. It looks as if they were roaming about, and because they've got the comms that, hey, it's a Big Tower take, they've quickly changed up their ideas and have fallen back directly onto the bomb site. Obviously, I think basement is very, very kind of turtle strategy, where it's all about the sites and all about the anchors. So it's no real surprise that we're seeing Liquid have an early drop-off, and they're just going to double up with their teammates. Back to site they go.
Still steadily hunting. That's the game they sort of set themselves up for. The Candelas in the pocket and all the bodies that are otherwise ready on this stairs. It does pique your curiosity. It piques your interest. They're making sure that they can, I guess, shepherd any loose bodies. They weren't able to catch any or many, so the attention is instead going to have to be focused towards the site itself. A minute 20, loads of time. And it seems like they are going for a very northern take. They have the extension round onto blue. They're not really bothering with what is the tougher take on the freezer and the laundry side instead. And I guess with those Candelas, it's just a matter of seeing if they can dig people out. The first job will be isolating PSK, sort of cutting that line from E-Box all the way across and seeing if they can finish off the already wounded player.
NIP taking their time, clearing out blue the best that they can. That Ying's going to be brought in, and that's a big operator to really pack a punch and assist NIP with their final execute. So we've talked about blue, it's very, very difficult to gain control of, but the execute, as we know, is very strong for a lot of the attacking side, and if you bring in Ying, it adds even more chaos and even more explosive nature to it. Julio gets eliminated, takes a lot of damage from the smoke, still managed to take out PSK, who is causing them a lot of issues, but at what cost? They have 30 seconds to go. They've lost the Ying now. They don't have as big of a presence going into the final 20 seconds of this round.
Moringo's lounging and lying down on the back end. Almost got a lucky take there against, but is able to survive and slip away. 10 seconds though. They got to see if they can stick the diffuser. The C4 does a lot of damage too, but doesn't quite lock him off. Moringa, in fact, does more damage. Drops Parlu. 5 seconds. They push for the last. And NIP, they find that bit of aggression, and they sort of got a little bit overwhelmed by the chaos there.
Yeah, you felt Liquid's looking good going into those final 20 seconds, but NIP, like we said before, very, very scrappy, being able to pull rounds out of thin air, it seems to be at times, and NIP take their first attack. Liquid losing their basement. Was that a case of maybe they needed a little bit more aggression in the room game? We've seen 2 players drop off very, very early. I would have thought a player like Ness would be up for the room game.
I think it becomes that mantle of concern is you know that they're good at isolating you, and you know that Laundry as a site, it offers you a lot of brick and mortar, but you have to be able to keep handles on parts. You know how generally if they're going to set themselves up, they're going to try and isolate E-Box, then they'll try and push onto Elbow, because the E-Box will give them control of Pillar, then they can push Elbow, and then they can try and get the plant down on default. You know what they're going to take, and you know where you need to sort of have bodies, but you know it's NIP. They're going to go for a clear on the rest of the map first, and they're going to try and punish you and catch you a lot of the times, and it becomes that dangerous gambit of you'll either waste a lot of time and make that final push rougher, or you just an easy pickup. And an easy pickup when you know that there is this formula to have a hold down in that basement.
I would like to see a little bit more aggression from Liquid. I would like to see them take it NIP and have those early engagements that really see them over the line. NIP with the Monty. This is a very signature operator from NIP. I know that, of course, over Invitational, we've seen this be played quite a lot, and me and Ollie, you know, we dubbed it a couple of times. Fluke saying, you know, panic Monty for NIP whenever their backs are up against the wall. Monty always seems to come out, but I think they've definitely shown us that Monty is just a pick for them, which is very, very strong.
We already highlighted the fact that if you have a good Monty player, they're so rare. They're shinies. They're things you need to sort of clutch and hang on to and make sure you keep them, because if they slip away from you, if they slip through your fingers, then you're in a bit of a dicey moment. You're in a bit of a tricky situation there. It becomes a bit of a tough ask, because it's not just that you have a great multiplayer, it's that people don't often know how to respond to multiplayers. So you, in a weird way, have to protect them, because in those panic situations, when you've got that and you've got something they're not used to dealing with, that's when they're at their sharpest. So be cautious at the start and then build to the momentum for the end.
Mm-hmm. A lot of pressure is going to be put on Sexy Kick's shoulders whenever there's a Monty maneuvering towards blue. So where the smoke player is going to be under a lot of fire. But then again, he is a smoke. Very well balanced to deal with. Of course, a Monty pushing at you, the Toxic Babes can do a lot of damage and keep the Monty at bay. long as you can. PSK using that deployable shield, but always cautious that somebody could be on the tower steps. NIP just beginning their clear out. Utility going down, and I'm sure a nade will come in from Pino, being able to eliminate the deployable shield, and that's gone. That will force PSK back just a little bit more. Psycho. Here he goes, straight in with the Monty, but there is a Sea of Flames, unfortunately, from the Goyo. Toxic Gape gets tossed at him, and oh, look at the damage going down onto the Monty.
He's trying to find somewhere safe, but nothing is. Long arms. That canister to buy himself a moment, another canister pops. He's in a bit of safety, and he knows that the longer he can bait out those plays is how he can be rewarded. PSK's dropped, there's the swing, where's one more, and there's finally some revenge, but you look at what's off the board, the Habana's gone, the Monty's gone, a lot of their close push there's been removed. They're able to find one more on the swing, leaving just Julio as this backline. The Capitao, who was the first to take any real damage on the swing to allow the Monty to go through, is now the last to take any, and it's Sexy Cake with the shotgun that locks it off. Liquid instantly respond to the loss here before.
Yeah, very, very strong from Liquid. I think NIP just getting clumped up. 4 players outside of blue. Usually it's, 2 or 3, but never really 4 players. Usually we have one guy pushing down the tower steps, and we have another person usually on an E-box. But all of them just kind of funneling into, the Sea of Flames from the Goyo shields. Obviously, we've seen the smoke canisters as well. Yeah, very confusing from NIP. It was a 5v5. Just spread out a little bit more, give yourself more options.
I think it's one of those things where they went for a take and they dedicated themselves to it. And at that point, I think the reason that the Monty dropped the shield and started throwing those smokes was they knew that it just needed to take one slightly better placed smoke canister, one shorter placed smoke canister, and they were dead anyway. And it becomes this sort of panic moment of, okay, we got to try and keep this Monty alive. As I said, you need him to do those sort of aspects and those pushes and those holds, but if you're losing him early, if you saw how he was cut off from the rest of the pack, he did the most dangerous dive to try and get through. As he said, it's good to have the support elsewhere, but they wouldn't have been able to rotate, because if you do, you've definitely lost the Monty. If you don't, you might be able to chance survive it, but it's not easy as proven. Now though, we get to an alternate here. We get to a slightly different take, doubled up, so they have a big rotation and even bigger angle if they want to try and use it on an approach here. But as before we said, we don't really see Attic too much, although the pressure comes across here instead.
Top floor bomb site is where we head to. Liquid. I mean, the roam game, very, very heavy. Whenever you see a vigil being picked up, you expect a bit of aggression being applied. NIP, no intentions of big tower at the moment. All their pressure towards bedroom. We have somebody on the generator window also, but it's gonna go amiss. Nobody peeks, nobody gives himself up from Liquid. Melissa is also an interesting operator that is still, getting picked in the meta. We know there's a big change happened to her, of course, this season, where you can simply destroy the Banshees by shooting the middle off it. Along with the days of the indestructible bulletproof Banshees that were just such a nuisance. And it has really, affected her pick rate quite a bit. There are still some strong areas you can place Banshee charges. I think the one on Trophy Wall is very, very strong. If someone walks in from Trophy, you're never going to look to the left to try and eliminate the Banshee. You're going to be focused on the 3 other angles that you could potentially get swung from.
Yeah, it puts you in this sort of awkward, sort of uncomfortable situation there where, it can not sort of strike you as much as it can otherwise, but that call for these teams who love to swing onto things and swing onto fights is more than enough. And it's a great gun in the right hands. Here is the split pressure now as they're able to get walking open. They want to see if they can get at it. There is a body underneath, you assume, with the C4 that can cause some problems if they try and go for a quick plant here behind the foosball table. With White still under their control, that's also a bit of an issue. There's the smoke canister as Musi slips past and heads onto the foosball table. The diffuser carrier isn't isolated as of yet, but it's Nesk up the back stairs that gets a triple before being dropped to 2 versus 2. And Kamikaze is trying to find a way back into the fight. The bodies of Liquid have actually dropped off. They've both gone for these bigger rotates. One up the side of White's stairs. The Capitao is going to secure it just the second for themselves. The C4 in the hand of Palu is waiting for a bit of intel, but they don't quite have it. There is the plant. There is the misplay on the C4. They don't quite have the connection. 40 seconds, and well, now they're in a post plant. No real way to strike back against that. We'll know that there's an awareness being played. Have gone for 2 different angles of approach here. They've got to see if they can isolate the first, who's buried on the far side, holding a close angle. Julio wins it out, moves and manipulates to a new play space, but the wide swing comes through, and NIP get one more.
Yeah, great plant location from Kamikaze, not in the more predictable default, which is exactly what got blown up from below. He planted just a little bit away from that, and that was enough to see them over the line for that defuse. So, yeah, NIP, great work in that final post-plant. Liquid, again, just struggling with the information game. So, 5-4 is where we sit. Very, very close affair as it goes. But, hey, Fluke, would we have it any other way?
No, I think, as I said at the start, you want this to be a game that goes all the way. You want this to be a game that goes the distance, because we know what these teams are capable of. We know that, sure, they have other competitions, as anyone does. They have other histories, but when you have the 2 teams from the most recent grandest final meet again in an elongated session, not just in sort of best of 1, but the full best of 3, regardless of whether it's another final or not, you're like, okay, this is this Mark II, this is this extension, this is this sort of continuation here. And you can sort of see that NIP, they're still discussing it. They want to try and put the pressure in, as you said. If they can pull Oregon, if they can take this as their sort of early game, putting themselves onto the second map, it puts them in good stead. It puts them with this great idea of club of, like, this could be ours to lock off quite quickly here.
So just waiting as we have a bit of an issue. Another technical difficulty. Hopefully it's not going to be as long as what we had the last time, of course. But as it stands, 5-4 NIP in the lead. Still plenty of rounds to go yet. If Liquid can pull it back, and I don't know, I'm kind of feeling an overtime this map. It feels like an overtime game, just the way it's currently moving. You also hear music?
Yeah.
You hear music? Do you? Or is it just me?
Might just be you. Is it good music?
I hear some music. I don't know if that is us or not. I'm really not sure.
Is it good music?
Do you not hear the music?
I don't hear the music, but are you listening? I'm entirely clean feed.
Okay. Yeah, I hear some music. I'm not sure.
The audience is hearing music.
I hope so, or hopefully. I mean, hey, if it's just for my pleasure, then sure.
If it might be,
then
just direct to you, because they know that if they don't, and it's a bit of dead air in the game, that you get distracted like a small bird and you'll wander away, and they have to keep your interest high. So they play.
Mm-hmm.
They'll get out like shiny objects later as well, like stats and cards and overlays for you to look at, so that keeps your focus. And then occasionally, if we really need you to stay, we'll get Ollie in to say something that will.
I am not an animal.
Get you irritated.
How
bird.
dare you?
Like a small.
How dare you?
Like a small little pea bird that we need to just.
How dare you?
Coax to.
Despicable behavior, I'll be honest. Absolutely despicable.
Hi, if you've just joined us, it's 5-4 on the first map. It's Oregon, and it's been back and forth. It has sort of been both teams digging in. The thing is, what we've seen so far, though, however, is NIP's been able to have, I would say, more earlier success in their attacks than Liquid. They've also suffered a disconnect, unfortunately, so they'll be back in sooner rather than later. That's why we're having just a little bit of a moment, a little bit of a tech timeout here. Hopefully back in soon. There's things I can talk about, but I don't know if I should or not. I don't know if I should wait, because I got a glimpse at the next site and the lineups beforehand.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And there's a certain man with a mustache called Warden who's on the board in the hands of PSK. And they're going to Meeting Hall Kitchen. So I'm curious to see what they sort of expect. Now, I don't know who disconnected. Psycho disconnected. So I'm not sure what was going to be in his hands. But there's nothing in the hands of the others. Granted, this is our glimpse before 6th pick, that would cause a Warden. So do you think that is part of the play, or do you think and that's part of the play of a team that knows the other team very well? Or do you think that is them sort of saying, don't play anything like the Candelas that you did early game because we have a Warden. Okay, let's 6-pick off the Warden.
I mean, Warden is always... I always describe him as a man out of time. You know, he was... He was designed for a time where all we seen was Glaz, Monty, Ying, and just a handful of smokes.
Do you remember that meta?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I try to block it from my memory.
And, you know, Warden back then would have been, you know, the perfect operator at the time, but since then, you know, Warden got added into the game whenever they announced that all of those operators were getting massive nerfs, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Wrong place, wrong time for Warden. But, hey, we see it the odd time. We see it the odd time. The odd time it happens.
Yeah, but do you think they're going to stick it, or do you think this is them just as a warning flag to NIP being like, don't bring your Candelas, lads?
I mean, NIP, again, are not fearful of bringing Monty, so if that's what they're expecting is Monty being brought in and using smokes, then yeah, Warden's going to be a great pickup for that, and I think Liquid will probably still stick it, mostly because who's to say what NIP are bringing? You know, NIP could equally just 6-pick onto a Monty, so yeah, I think Liquid will probably hang on to it.
Wow. We're in. I think in just a moment we'll have things back over. And then we'll see. We'll see if it gets locked. There's the bait. There's the 6th pick. Da 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 da. Maestro da 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 da. Psycho, what are you gonna do if there's Candelas? That'll be funny. There he is! Yeah, all the things I talked about. It came true.
Should have stuck with Warden.
They baited it. They said, don't bring it. We've got Warden, but it was a bait, and NIP knew them so well, they went, whoa!
Bait inside a bait.
We know this is a bait.
Yeah, it's a bait
inside of a bait. It's a bait cake.
Have you ever seen the, I don't know if you're a fan of classic comedy films? Such as, you know, your Laurel and Hardy's, your Abbott and Costello's. Have you ever seen the Abbott and Costello, sketch where it's they're fishing and he finds a fish and then he throws the fish back in to catch a bigger fish? That's what that basically is. He's thrown in the bait to see if he can, you know, catch, you know, say, oh, don't go for the Ying. He's pulled back and then he's thrown out a Maestro, an even bigger fish, and he's going to lose that fish as well. He's just losing fish, and it's not going to work for him.
Honestly, it's a read of two teams that know each other. It's a read of two teams going, well, they've done this, and I guess it's almost strange. They know that they play around the Candelas. They know that they can bring the Ying. They think that they can be, I guess, they would have expected it as well. We don't know how deep this goes. We don't have this pulls back, and Liquid were thinking, well, we know that they know that we know, but they won't know that we can use Maestro. You know?
I mean Maestro is good against smokes. Let's not be around it. He's still a very strong operator in that element, but I feel for, especially this setup, I still think Warden would have been a lot better for them. I still think Maestro will have a good chance, obviously, with also the Capitao charge is even more smokes on the board also, so it does give him a bit of a foothold, but it's just the flashes and the Candelas and the Yings that I worry about, and I feel for this bomb site also. No, that's a great pick from Sexy Cake. You know, I don't see him, but Sexy Cake does. It's a good start, but yeah, I think the Maestro, it's going to be difficult for him to actually find a good position to sit in the Maestro cameras. It's a very similar story to how I feel sometimes a match like Coastline, where you can get a little bit claustrophobic.
Caught out just by the angle of someone going for a bit of a swing. Thought they were a little bit higher and a little bit tougher to find than they were, but a big blow, because you look at the sledge and you look at the site and the approach that they wanted. They were trying to dig their way in above the site itself. They wanted to open themselves some space. They've lost half their frag grenades as well, which means getting through some of these corners in this facility is going to be tougher. The opening over the top is always that concern, because you're thinking, well, they might try and C4 us. They might try and put this pressure in over it. Lucy that's dancing a bit of a dangerous dance. They're thinking about the Candelas around in the close corner, but there's still no easy method of approach. It is partially soft, though. So if they lob this over the top, they might then be able to try and apply some damage and destruction through the wall itself. See if they spray a blind person struggling to find the door. But it's a lot of waiting. Psycho finally releases, finally runs behind it, goes for the fight itself on Moringa, but is not otherwise rewarded. Sexy Cake blind, pulls back. No response.
Psycho fires in a Candela and slowly works his way in towards the top floor and waits. Good position. Expecting someone to be an attic, but nobody's there. Nobody's there, Psycho. Who are you after? After no one right now. So he's inside of attic, has the hatch, of course, but PSK is aware of that and trying to hold on to that as long as he can. Psycho, a bit of barbed wire, has to try and get rid of that, but then there will be a sound indication, and ooh, Psycho, watch out. PSK is waiting for you. Down goes the Candela. The Psycho, you're going to try and drop this? Yes, you will. Oh, and Nesk has the cover. PSK has been down, but still Liquid have an onslaught of kills, and Muzi trapped inside a server. It's not going to work for him. Very strange round from NIP. All over the show, really.
Yeah, it was a little bit particular. They couldn't quite, I guess, get a handle on what they were expecting to do here. The drive of the Candelas over the top didn't quite bear fruit. Liquid were not otherwise tested. They were happy to sort of sit in their locations. Obviously, they were gifted the early take against the Sledge, which I said was costly because they're going for this take across the verticality. They had some soft walls. Imagine if Pino was in a position to hit the wall on Trophy, and they could have Candela'd their way through using the hole over the top, and it would have been an entirely different potential take there. It would have been an entirely different potential round there. It's costs, it's fallacies, it's how these things come together and how they get blown apart. 5-5. Still, neither team is letting the other slip too much further ahead. Man, the fancy tie is in. The Candelas are out. There's no Monty. There's a lot of flash potential, but in terms of the take and the push, this is probably the one where Warden isn't really going to have the best ability showing in terms of his ability, but it's also an MPX in the hands of Nesk.
Yeah, NIP all over the show, really, aren't they, with their operator choices and just keeping Liquid on their toes. Liquid just, again, they've brought the kind of wrong operator this time around, but then again, Nesk has 13 kills and has the MPX, like you said, and yeah, we'll see what damage he can do. So NIP have completely sacked off, you know, the kind of smoke take that they've went for in the past. They've went, I think, very heavy now on the utility. We're seeing, you know, more frags be brought in. We're seeing flashes. So the area that they were struggling with, which was really the utility, they brought more of that to try and assist with that.
Yeah, I guess it's, you know, if we're going to talk about the sort of approaches and this balance between when two teams know each other really well, they get specific. They get into it. But sometimes they're also guessing each other's game. They're trying to be that step ahead, that curve. And NIP so far, I think their fluidity and their operator selections is causing more problems, but they can't quite get the finesse on the lockdown. They can't quite utilize the space of the collapse in the fight.
NIP, where will they enter in from? They have been a very heavy blue side. All they've really wanted to take is the big tower in blue, and that's really it. But now we're seeing a bit of a change of direction, entering in from the south and west side off the map. They're in straight away. They've cleared out any roamers. Were any from Liquid, of course, but it's still safe for them to move in, get their hard breachers in, and opening up the hatches. Potential laundry take, maybe, from NIP is what they're opting for. Definitely the way they're gearing up, it seems to be the case. We're seeing drones funnel down in towards Freezer. I think with the extra nades that they're having, it makes a lot more sense. But you still have to go through mirror windows, which, as we know, are detrimental for so many attacks in this bomb site.
Oh, yeah. It's the extension. It's what Mirror offers. Do you see how many players suffered damage on that hot drop there? And it doesn't matter, because they're able to get the punishment on the first. Moringa is dogging on the corner. Kamikaze is trying to find the cover just over the shoulder and gets it. NIP lights up the other side of the map, leaves just PSK. And I was drawn to the attention of the hot drop on the hatch. All the bodies that hit Freezer and Laundry at exactly the same time. The twin and the combination was perfect. Now it's seeing if they can find the last final steps through. They have secure of Laundry-ish. The worry is the diffuser, I believe, is currently in Freezer, and that bit is a bit of a cross against the aggression. They've opened it up. I don't know, PSK has slipped into an angle to put the pressure down. They sure do now. Drops the first, Muzi's down. Kamikaze is still looking for a way through. Finds it, takes it. In fact, no, gets the pickup. They've got 40 seconds. Why not? You got time. Re-establish yourself. You've got utility. Utilize it. Gets revenge, gets their pickup, gets the round, gets themselves on map point.
Yeah, just too many bodies for PSK to really go up against NIP, and it was definitely a round where if you were to blink, you'd miss exactly what happened at NIP. very, very aggressive, and Team Liquid were caught, with their pants down. We're not expecting those quick drops, and NIP just steamrolling their way in through the bomb site. So Liquid drop another defense, and now we're at match point for Oregon, and I think we have to say, Fluke, is Liquid, this is your map. You have to win this one.
It's more than that, isn't it? It's sort of... I mean, we expect both these teams to be able to drive good fights on all of these maps, but you're entirely right. This is the place that they should have had that step ahead. They should have that mantle of control. They've got themselves in a tricky situation. They're still potentially driving to OT, which they then get the preference of how they start, so maybe it is just sort of that swing in moment. But as I said, NIP, they seem to get a bit of earlier engagement. They got a bit of an earlier draw and a drive here before. They were focused, I think, on making sure that they could keep themselves one step ahead. And although the gap isn't as wide as it could have been or has been throughout this game, still, the fact that they're the first to get to this precipice, it puts a lot of pressure now onto Liquid.
Liquid, all pressure on you, all eyes on you. NIP, again, another switch up. We're seeing the Ying come back into play, and look at this time for Liquid. No Warden. I'm telling you, NIP are rent-free in the pick phases right now. And honestly, do I dare say this is a big reason why NIP are winning, is they are picking the correct lineups at the right times.
See, weirdly, yes and no, because they technically had the correct lineup the town before this round, and they struggled to sort of make it connect. Like, I 100% agree with you. They are winning the pick phase. But I think they're trying, they're like, this is plan B lineup. We'll try plan C, A, and do all of this stuff. And I think that disconnect of trying to overextend and overguess things is where they're being punished, because a lot of the times Liquid are getting kills by just swinging onto these angles, swinging into NIP and getting a pick, getting that lucky opener like we saw Sescake do last time. They supposedly sort of had this Ying and won that dance, and I think NIP, they're winning it, but they need to, in a strange way, undercomplicate things.
Ooh,
simplify, that's the real word.
This is going to be a big battle right now. We have Nesk on their own game, and oh, that could be a decisive kill. That could have changed the outcome, and if it was a Liquid round win or an NIP, and as it stands, that might be an NIP round win already. A big fight, and Nesk, unfortunately for himself and his team, lose that engagement. Is that the final nail in the coffin? I think at this stage, all NIP need to do is bury it.
Well, Moringa's a little bit isolated over here. Nobody has otherwise come to pay him any attention. He's locked in his own world, waiting for some semblance of a push and pressure, but otherwise NIP, as you said, they've got that opener pick, they've reshuffled and moved themselves over to the other side. They've now been able to punish them early on. They get the man advantage for what we know and have talked about is a very precious take. Hey, look at this. They're paying attention to E-Box before they try and throw themselves in for the pressure onto blue. They're paying attention to the rest of the hold. They're making sure that they can, I guess, put a bit of focus here. Instead, last time they went for a take like this, it was the Monty, sure, and they tried to drive themselves in, but they didn't really do some of the busy work and legwork before. This time they're making sure that they have that ability. The burns come through, they're looking towards the shield in the close corners, and they hit it and pop it and force them into an unfortunate situation as Psycho slips above E-Box.
Psycho just waiting for the call, I think, for his teammates. There goes the stuns. It will connect with one. That's going to be the man close on the corridor. And perhaps another one goes in. Yes, it will. Paul finds a C4 kill, though. And now Liquid perhaps with a fighting chance. And there goes a massive flurry of trades. And Liquid, out of nowhere, have pulled off the round.
I mean, you wouldn't have expected it, but here is this game. Here is this game where both teams keep finding responses to things that you don't expect them to. It's continual. It never ends. It's a cycle between these two teams. And now Liquid, they've hit OT. They've been able to pull themselves to OT. It's 6-6. It's their map. And now this is them still on their defense. The half that they've just been able to take some success on, the half that they predicted they would have more on. But it's still anyone's game.
Yeah, I have no idea where this one's going to go. This is a real barn burner for the game. And it's only the first map. It is only the first map between both of these teams. Okay. So, moving in. Next bomb site. here we go. Gonna be a basement for Liquid. They have literally just won this bomb site. More changes for NIP. Julio back on the Capitão now. We see him bring that out to play. Everything else remains the same, more or less, for NIP. Liquid, no changes for them, so both teams content with what they're bringing. Wonder if Ness is going to go for another roam game.
I would be surprised if he tries to stick it as much as possible. To be fair, the reason we saw Moringa in that situation, it was to cover for Nesk if Nesk tried to slip away. Nesk had, obviously, you assume, the hatch open near him to drop into kitchen to get an escape that way to see if they can then pull away. Because if a player's in that situation, you sort of force a lot of standard teams would have to make a lot of decisions there. They'd have to be like, okay, well, we need a body from Attic or Trophy to put the pressure onto the player, and then we need someone around the drop, potentially on Showers, to get them if they try and get somewhere else. NIP swung it with the double stack up there on Attic. They took it in a slightly different angle, and I think that's the thing that Liquid will be thinking of, is like, we didn't draw them away as other teams would have, so it's probably less meaningful because of that more than anything, more than losing the firefight.
So NIP have been rattled a little bit by losing that last round. Nico very quickly moving into the building. No roam game this time for Liquid. Sitting on site. And in comes Kamikaze, opening up the hatches. It's like clockwork at this stage. Fluke. They all know what to do. They all know their positions and their objectives this round. It's the blue side for me, which is what is really letting NIP down. They've tried to go for blue countless times. It just doesn't work for them. Their freezer take has worked out a lot better for them.
Well, that's what they seemingly focus on a little bit more now. They didn't go for the hot drop like they did previously, but they have a bit of an idea on just where everybody is buried. Dancing. Bolts on the far side, but waiting for a little bit more pressure to come from the opposite. There's the first bit of the burn around the corner. They're trying to force them off so they can try and pop this Hibana window open. Psycho is ready to drop with the cover from the opposite. There it is. There's the slip, and there's the drop. Palu with the C4 gets the first. The spray comes around, and it's Nest to look it off before Musi finds some response. Palu, though, with the double buried in the back line, is able to make sure that they're punished. They still have, obviously. Moringa dug in behind the bomb chassis in the close corners. Everything they tried to throw themselves into there hasn't quite worked out into their favor. There's the ping, there's the spray. There's a popped mirror window. They're going to make this even more uncomfortable for them on the approach. The C4 is ripped, torn. They slip by, though. Great bit of game sense there from Kamikaze to drive their way through. 45 seconds. They've at least been able to get it closer to a bit of a body balance, but the isolation between these two players is tricky. 6x Kairos could open up that mirror window, or potentially a bit of a closer stretch, but they know that it's still a bit of a dead man's land with that body on pillar. They don't even get that far around. Sexy Cake with a shotgun locks off one more. The spray of the canister and the body behind a mirror window gets the spray on. Obviously, Palu is dropped. They might not know about that. 20 seconds. They know that there's still at least 2 more to get through.
Yeah, so no matter of time now, I feel for Liquid just have to hold firm. They have a nice crossfire set up. Julio will be swinging, and there's the crossfire coming in. PSK knew that whenever he hears a shotgun blast, he goes swinging, and he finds that kill. Liquid now take the lead. 7-6. But NIP now, they get to switch over sides. They get a defense, and Liquid back on the attack. It's been quite some time since we've seen Liquid attack in this map.
I guess you're ready to see where the rust may be between these two teams, because NIP are obviously they're heading over to their defense as well. We haven't seen that for a while. They were good when things were connecting, but so were Liquid. On their attacks, it was this very different vibe between these two teams, and now obviously we find ourselves however many rounds further on. There's the spray, there's the crossfire, the swing on the first, and the pop out over the second gets them the result. They are 1 round away from bringing this into their favor, but so are NIP before Liquid pulled it back.
Alright, here we go. Potential final round in this first map. NIP have to stay alive. Have to win this round. Liquid, 1 round away. First map. 1-0 up in the series. Looking at the kills right now. Nobody on NIP hitting double digits at the moment. But then if you look at Nesk, you look at PSK, you look at Palu. 3 players in double digits.
I think that's the sort of spread here, because we talked about it before with Nesk and Parlu anyway, is you want them both to show up as a duo. You want them both to sort of show themselves up. And it's not that uncommon, but NIP is this very balanced strike force. They all have these moments. They all have this drive and this dig in. BSK's had a great game so far. They aren't always the sort of standout player, but, you know, they're still an exceptional player in a team of standout players. It's that sort of... It's like the Renshiro and the Rafale fallacy, is when you're in a team with players like Shaiko and Alems who have these insane plays, your greatness is sometimes not as obvious because it's sort of this cool constant. And I think that's been PSK this game, is they've been so steady and so sort of succinct throughout a lot of their engagements.
Good, doing their drone work, getting Nesk in nice and early. He's leading the charge in, and good. Look as if they're just going to set up, probably for their blue take. I wonder if Nesk is trying to go a little bit aggressive and find the opening pick. Julio was there to meet him, but has since then been droned out and falls back down the stairs. And for NIP, do they go aggressive? Do they play safe? What are you thinking, Fluke?
I think play safe for now. I think Liquid are a team that they know how to set up, but they also know that Liquid on this push have been very late sometimes. They have been sort of final 10, 15 seconds in terms of trying to get the execute off. This was how we opened everything up, was NIP playing this sort of game here. They waited, they let Liquid get a lot of space, and then they pulled back, and they pulled back, and they pulled back, and then when it came down to the 5 versus 5 fight, they just had themselves positioned around the brickwork and the masonry to be able to lock them off. You're offered a lot on this site. You're offered a lot on this hold, and they might be making sure that they make full use of it, but the first goes against them. Nesk with an unpunished swing down the stairs. You can see Julio sort of shake his head there. He knew where he needed to be, but sometimes, as I said earlier, Lady Luck shines on you, and sometimes she does not, and that was one of those moments.
NIP losing that first pick isn't going to help them out. 45 seconds to go, and whenever Liquid are in this position, they're in their own element. They have that advantage, and you know, we've highlighted before that it's very rare we would see these decisive rounds going any way but a Liquid win. Julio holding onto that tower stairs the best that he can, but here comes the train from Liquid. Pino is also there, ready with a shotgun. Luke gonna have to make a move. Down goes Paulu, but the refrag is there. Nesk will eliminate Pino, and that will force Julio back into sight. Psycho comes out of nowhere with a shotgun. Now it's going to be a 3 versus 3. Muzi is still inside a blue, and runs past the sledge. Nesk with a triple kill for Nesk. A shotgun is still alive inside of E-Box. Muzi puts down Nesk. Psycho with a shotgun killing Muzi. Cleans it up. NIP is staying alive for another round.
All the way to the end. And that is everything that we sort of anticipated here on map 1. Of a best of 3. Well, if we didn't get the full taste, we would have felt a little bit bitter. But here, this is us getting that full taste, and it's pretty delicious so far. 7-7. Not quite over yet. NIP have been able to find themselves into and back to map point after they lost it earlier. I guess it's the real question is, who is going to be able to do what has felt a little bit impossible for a long period of time? Win 2 rounds in a row.
Yeah, it is gonna be a fun round. Like, I have no idea where this is gonna go. Both teams, as we know, have been even on defense and attack. So, actually, I think, yeah, we've actually seen more defensive wins now, haven't we? Because obviously Liquid won their defense the last round, and then NIP have just won a defense. So it is a defender-sided Oregon, even though both teams went in with an even split. But yeah, Liquid get a defense now. And they will go for a very, in my opinion, a very risky bomb site now. They go for the meeting. Whenever Kids was available to them, they're going to go meeting.
It's that sort of drive, I guess. And to be fair, the hold that they've been able to do here has been pretty good so far. But I think a lot of that has been built by NIP not really knowing how to crack their way through. NIP have sometimes sort of struggled in terms of the holes that they want to put across here. We saw them entirely sort of scarper as things were led in, and it was one of those conversations about who's really winning the ban phase and the operator phase. Okay, it's sort of going this way, but at the same time, NIP sometimes on these sort of food for thought sites haven't quite had the rhythm and the ideas on how to take it, and suddenly they've lost a lot of time, and suddenly they've lost even more bodies, and Liquid just shut it up. So here they got to make sure that that doesn't slip away from them again.
Okay, here we go. Final round. Liquid. How will your defense play out? NIP attacking from Big Tower, going to get themselves in. Also, Pino moving in from bedroom, so perhaps trying to really pressure these upstairs roamers, not allowing Liquid to have this freedom. As we know, of course, kids is a massive area for the defense on this bomb site. You need to try and control that as best as you can. It gives you, I think, a lot of freedom, because if you know you have kids control, you know, you have hatch there, you can drop back to site. The vertical angles that you can play are also very, very strong. Pino will spot out one player behind the deployable shield, and that's right in the middle of Trophy. Almost as if, you know, it's like an upstairs hold, you know, as if it was, you know, the kids' bomb site. We see this shield be played a lot, so Liquid are going to be using that, and it will give them the opening pick. Paulu's massive kill will eliminate Psycho, but then very swiftly Pino moves in with the refrag, and 1-for-1 trade. Who does that favor? I don't know. Twitch for a Jaeger. Take your pick.
I mean, technically, Paulu, they sort of struck in there, and they went for a bit of an escape. They didn't try and hold on to it. They wanted their life, but to be honest, when the Jaeger's already put in that situation and taken the fight, oh, there was almost a bit of a blow back there, then I think they've generally put themselves in a good stead. You know, it is close now on Death's Door as they finally start to do some body work above. They're going to set a drone on the far end, and they have a dead body to watch that if need be. The flanks can be a little bit controlled here as Kamikaze is eyeing up, opening up here. With that little bit of attic done, it means that anything on the wall itself, like potential mute jammers, won't be able to stop it. They're getting themselves the walk in. They have the angle towards it as well. The concern here is it becomes a bit of a long firefight all the way to the back of Split, to the back of the ballast. If anyone's on the sandbags as well, it's not always easy to find your drive all the way through.
Kamikaze gonna sweep the drones in, spotting out any player who may be inside of meeting, but as they can see, nobody's home, nobody is in that location. Nesk swung out from meeting, and another one falls for NIP. Sexy Cake takes advantage of Pino. That's a 2 versus 4. Toxic Base being tossed out, and Giulio is at a wall. He cannot get through the smokes. Now he's going to eye up a quick push in towards Kitchen, but another wall is just being deployed. The smokes are coming in so big, and the crossfires slam into NIP. Kamikaze all to play for a 1 versus 3, but with 3 seconds, he has no time, and Liquid will take the first map. Oregon goes their favor.
All the way to the end, but Liquid keep it a Liquid map. It was their one that they wanted to come towards. It was their one that they thought that they could take the fight on, and to be fair, they did, but did they expect it to go all the way? Did they expect it to be as tough of a fight, and does that mean expectations for the next map are going to be even tougher? Either way, they still have potentially a long day ahead of them, and it started in the most stressful ways possible. Big opening game